Ladies and gentlemen, good evening, and welcome to The Lifting. With your hosts, Christopher Stephen Jacobs, Joanna Michaels, Katrina Schaff, and the Galactics. Here, we discuss the truths of the world around us, which are not normally known by humanity. History was written by the victors. No more. Deny the known. Manifest differently. And now, please welcome Christopher, Joanna, and Katrina.
Hi everyone, this is Joanna Michaels, and here we are with The Lifting again. This recording is for the week of February 10th, 2019. As always, beside me is Christopher Stephen Jacobs. And today we have a wonderful guest that we have re-asked to come back and visit us. Our first talk with her, believe it or not, was 2 years ago, and a lot has happened since then. So we want to welcome back Ileana. Ileana was the one back in, I believe it was February 2017, that we started having a conversation about the secret space program and the MyLabs projects and things like that. And we asked Ileana to please come on and start having a conversation with us. And again, that was just 2 years ago. After that show, Chris and I made a decision that we thought it would be best that we put off having conversations like this for a while, because we felt it was important that we talk about the importance of inner work, that we talk about the importance of how people needed to understand the energetics in the world around them a little bit better, how they needed to learn to become a bit more sovereign, protect themselves, protect their energies, learn how to discern a little bit better. And so we actually really have spent a lot of time in the last 2 years working on topics more like that, because it is all about inner work. And so being able to even bring back potential memories where you were utilized in maybe the secret space program or MyLabs or other areas that you would need to learn to do things like protect your energy still. You would need to do things like discern what's coming through. And so we're at the point now where we feel we've covered that enough and have enough information for people to review that we can start actively having these conversations again. So we're so excited that Ileana is back speaking with us today. Basically, Ileana is known as a Star Traveler, and she is a secret space program and asset who do the 60 and back quantum leap time travel program on the Mars bases with the planetary corporations, working as a cybernetics technician and genetic splicing in the cybernetics labs, as well as a communication technician. So for Ileana, she's been starting to really pull in really a lot of detail about what she was doing during that time. So Ileana, say hi to everybody. So thank you. And right before we get started, we always like to do an affirmation and prayer. So I'd like to go ahead and do this one now. We would like to bless this conversation. We would like to bless everyone listening to us now, in the future, and understand that it is your heart that will help you to discern what is right for you to know and what is not right for you to know at any given moment and time. So be gentle with yourselves and let your heart lead the way. So with that, let's get right into it. So Ileana, long time no talk. Yes, so tell us a little bit about yourself. And we were just speaking quite briefly, and I think this is so important, so maybe we should start there, where you were talking about your journey in discovery and the methodology for which you wanted to bring the information through to give you confidence in it. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so in 2014, I had remembered that I had been an asset in the secret space program with the planetary corporations on the Mars bases, and how that came about was some just basic memory recalls of being on Mars. Um, but there was a lot of gaps, and I wanted to know more about that. What was that, and what was the connection with the alien abductions, extraterrestrial contact experiences? That came first, and then the SSP stuff. The alien contact experiences, I had memories of, vivid memories already. So I started looking into the SSP asset experiences. So through that, I decided to learn shamanic past life regression, and also different ways of hypnosis methodology, of how to do it myself, induce it myself, and how to do it with other practitioners. And through that, I learned that I had done the 60 and back on Mars through quantum time travel dilation. So basically, quantum leap time travel program. I'm not 60, but I have health issues of somebody who is a 60-year-old. So I worked with a shaman practitioner, and I worked with other hypnosis practitioners. I did quantum healing hypnosis therapy, and I did a lot of just normal hypnosis regression, focusing on the SSP memories, memory recalls that I had, and building up a timeline of how this all unfolded. And through that, I found out that I had been released officially from the Planetary Corps in March 2014, but they continued to re-abduct me throughout the years until 2017 for temporary missions and stuff. So it's a process of asking questions, asking the right questions about the basic memories you already have through the hypnosis and the past life regression, writing everything down, recording it on video, keeping journal logs and stuff like that, and working with a lot of different practitioners. For me, it was, I already knew the answers by having done this already, but I just kind of, by asking the same questions through different hypnosis with different practitioners, basically got the same answers just through kind of different means and different, same answers, slightly differently answered, basically. And it just sort of, I guess, confirmed and validated for me that, yes, this is real. What the memories I have are real. This is not fake. This is not implanted memories. Some of them were, but most of them were real experiences that happened to me on Mars. And as hard as it is to believe 60 and back is possible through time dilation, time travel, it is possible on a quantum level to do that, to have your soul be in one place and also be in another place, separated in different bodies or the same body, and being abducted at night while you're sleeping so nobody will notice. Your body is there happily sleeping, but your soul is out there in another body or an avatar doing this thing in the secret space program, because they could put you in a cyborg, they can put you in a clone body, they could put you in a perfect avatar of yourself that's not a clone or a cyborg, that is the perfect model of you genetically. And I found out that I was building cyborgs in the cybernetics labs, and then that I was sort of like a geneticist, combining human ET hybridization programs and combining human DNA with ET DNA to make these new hybrids who could fit in on different planets. And you wouldn't even know that they're different because they look similar to us, they act like us, they can quickly acclimate to our atmosphere or another planet's atmosphere and climate and just fit in with the beings that are on that planet. And that's a specialization that they put me in for medical, I guess medical, cybernetics, medical stuff. And to this day, I have this medical knowledge and I'm applying it to myself and my own health improvements and stuff. So those memories have remained with me, and I can access them and use them actually here on Earth for what I need for my health improvement. So it's kind of like a validation process, clarification, validation.
Yeah, and what I did not know until actually you just said it right before we hit the record button, which I thought was interesting, is that if anyone does go back and listens, and I guess you'll put the link somewhere there on the around this for people to go back and listen. I actually didn't know until you literally just said that some of the questioning that you were asking Chris about, you had already been through some of these practitioners. And Chris was, again, another person who was kind of giving you some validation to things that you had already, I don't know, did you know that, Chris, at the time that you were the third or so person she was going to?
No, I didn't know that, no.
Yeah, so I find that very interesting. And I do agree for people's sanity's sake that, this can be very hard and very hard to process. And so I think the methodology that Ileana has used of trying to do it in multiple different ways with different practitioners, including a psychic perspective, of bringing back this information and getting validation from multiple sources, really may be the way to go for a lot of people to help them really process and bring it in as it really was real kind of thing. So I appreciate you talking about that.
So
Yes.
testing is important, and when you get the same test answers from several different people, it sort of is like your validation. Well, I mean, it's the same answers coming in through a little bit different questions and different hypnosis regression sessions, but the data is basically the same. It does not change. It might look a little different, but it doesn't change. So that's very important, at least for me, because I believe in empirical evidence. For me, I know that stuff exists on the etheric and it comes down into the physical, but I believe in empirical evidence and test results. It's just, I don't know, I'm very scientific in that way, and I look at data and knowledge and information and I disseminate it, and I believe that test results, if you have something that you could prove and it's there, it's there. If it's not there, it's just not there, and it's not going to be answered by multiple different hypnosis practitioners or shamanic practitioner. If it did happen to you, it's going to come in anyway through the answers, through different people. If it didn't happen to you, it's not going to come in. It's just the way it was for me. Stuff came in, always answers about the SSP, about the ET contacts, ET abductions. It always came in, same answers through different people.
Yeah, I'm very glad that you added in psychics and shamanic practitioners and hypnosis practitioners as part of that proof process. I'm actually very thankful that you have put that in there, because a lot of times the scientific community does not consider that proof. They consider that, woo-woo or spooky or something like that. They don't want to include that. So I'm very happy that that is being included as the overall comprehensive picture of proof. And I'm also glad you pointed out that quantum leaping 60 and back thing. We went through something very similar, even though I went through a de-aging process and she went through a de-aging process and age acceleration process. I have memories of doing the body jumping and doing that quantum leaping back and forth on the soul transfer stuff. So I'm glad somebody else has brought that up as well. I don't hear too many people bringing that particular thing up.
The psychic stuff, I'm a psychic myself, and I've had clients, so I believe it's an important component, because without it, you are using your psychic abilities to even do past life regression or hypnosis for people. If you are psychic, you already do that. You look into people's memories, sort of, and guide them on their way in the hypnosis process. It's a huge component of this whole thing of getting your memories back, because the secret space programs, they really do take people who are psychic for these kind of advanced jobs or missions or whatever. I found out they took me because I do have extraterrestrial past lives and memories, cellular memories in my DNA. So they wanted that out of me, that knowledge. And because I'm psychic, that's good for them. It makes you a better SSP asset, because you could interface with other beings psychically. It's easier to integrate Neuralink implants in your brain and with other computer systems, because you are psychic to begin with. You already have that adaptability to easily communicate with technology or other beings psychically. So you're already enhanced, and it's, for them, it's better enhancement to create with Neuralink implants. If you have a psychic connection to begin with, you're good at it. So that's what I discovered for myself.
Yeah, that's how it was with me as well. They wanted me for my psychic abilities. I found out that some of the memories I've been bringing back, that's how I learned how to read cores, energy cores, and different memories and different people, and do energy healing, psychic healing, and stuff like that. There, they wanted it for a different purpose, but when I got integrated back here, I began to remember these different processes. You know, the emotions come first, some of the abilities come first, but in my near-death experience is when the heightened abilities started to come back. And then that's how I was able to conduct my sessions. So I'm glad that there's another psychic that I'm talking about that knows exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, did you want to?
Well, one of the interesting things about all this, and I believe we started the conversation back 2 years ago, is that there's a couple things I want to say. I want to give some perspective, but most of the time people are brought in, they really look for people to begin this process when they're children, and they start bringing them in and start preparing them as children. One of the, I hate to say this, enhancements to this is that we've actually seen, because a lot of this has to do with your lineage. So what we're realizing really now is that for a lot of people, if they're remembering that they were brought into this, there is a good chance that some of their lineage was also brought into this, that you may not be the first generation of someone from a particular family that's come into it. And in saying that where we were even thinking that people were brought in just as children, at times, because there's a lineage that they've been interested in and children are being born down that lineage, that there actually could be genetic manipulation and or fetal manipulation of the next generation coming in. Because it, again, like we were saying before, they're looking for what can be done for them. How can we enhance someone? If you have a good mathematician that they've utilized, can their offspring be brilliant mathematicians? And so the interesting thing that we've been seeing is a little bit broader picture of how it's been going on. And it's been, I think our understanding right now, our current understanding is that it certainly could have been now multiple generations prior to us that were being in the beginning brought in. And I say that in context to this. Who built the infrastructure to the secret space program? Do you think it wasn't just poof magically there? So you actually have potentially generations worth of families that they've been going to pull in the next generation, because I know a lot of people right now out there talking are talking more about it's the first interest is, of course, if you were literally on a spaceship taking to another planet, what were you doing? More of the militaristic person that's had all these kind of experiences out there in all these different worlds. But the truth of the matter is, it's an entire infrastructure that's going on, not just that. And so the quantity of people that were literally pulled in and then put back is much greater, I think, than people are thinking about, because they're not maybe completely relating what it takes to run an entire infrastructure like that. So I'll just say, so for some of my memories, you know, I kind of am all over the place. I have some very interesting memories of what was being done as far as training processes being things being done to me as a child, no less than 5, things that were done as an older child, more in training of telepathic stuff, and then things as being an older adult. So, you know, it's kind of all over the place. I'm not the one with the memories of flying around all the time, fighting things. Like Chris has a lot of war, you know what I mean, militaristic strategy that kind of stuff. And I, as well, I think was used in some behind the scenes areas, and even in areas that people aren't talking about yet, which were how the infrastructure of what are we going to create that better controls the human population on Earth, like the binary network. All of that was created over there as well. So it's an enormous infrastructure with people utilized on all kinds of different areas. So I just want to broaden that conversation in people's minds, because they may not bring back memories of them being off-world fighting a strange alien. They may have memories that I am working in a lab, I'm experimenting, or I'm doing this, or I'm doing that, and you don't have any context to it all. So I don't know if you want to, if you have anything to add to that, but I just wanted to broaden the topic.
Well, that's true, because really what ends up happening is they can put you into any job, any mission parameter that you fit in pretty well, that you are qualified for based on your past life experiences, extraterrestrial lifetimes. They look at all of that history. They don't just look at the body you're in right now. They look at all your past lives, all your experiences, because that comes with you genetically through cellular memory. It's there in your genetics already. They pull it up and they put you in whatever you're qualified for. It's not based on what you are right now in this bodysuit, in this skin suit that you're walking in. It's your soul energy that they really look at, past record of your lives, past lives, future lives, anything. So they look at that. They don't purely look at what you were doing on Earth when you were taken, because most of the time you're taken as a kid, so you haven't done jobs. You're taken into the My Labs to get that prep training for when you're a teenager and an adult to seriously be put into the SSP programs. For me, I wasn't put into My Labs. I was abducted by reptilians from age of 2 to 10. Sharab Invictus and Black Drazzer reptilians. So it wasn't the Draco. It wasn't your typical reptilian abduction. I was infested with nanite technology right then on the spot. So for me, I had the extraterrestrial alien experiences and contact experiences as well already before I was inducted into the SSP program, to the 16 back. So I think that's all connected. It's not a coincidence that that happened to me, because it was prep work, and I was put into the Monarch program, and it's not your average MK Ultra, Monarch brainwash. The Monarch program was to psychically train me to open portals, to withstand torture and pain. That's what the prep work was for the SSP, to go off planet. The Monarch stuff happened on Earth, where I was abducted into the woods somewhere near Sierra Madre Mountains area. That's near California, like Mexico, New Mexico border. And I've seen some underground bases as well, training facilities for psychic abilities and opening portal to travel, a natural gateway portal with your mind to travel through it. And that takes a lot of energy to be psychically able to do that. But it's under certain conditions, and it's hard to do that on your own after you've been brainwiped. Like, you have to reconnect everything to be able to do that, and travel also out of your body and your light body. So you don't have to depend on your physicality to open your portal. Doing it through light body, just leaving the body and traveling out there with your soul energy, that's your light body. It's like your light body bridge, basically. And it goes beyond astral travel, and I can do that. Although I psychically and shamanically I have been magically trained to do astral travel, but I do it differently because I prefer to have an actual full light body and not just go out with my mind and astral travel. I'm safer in a full light body while my body's here safely resting, while I am out there doing whatever I want answers to and want to see. So, but right now I'm trying to stay home. I'm trying to be closer to home because I have earthly matters that I'm taking care of. So there's multiple dimensions and layers to your whole SSP thing, to your past lives, future lives. what you know, where you've been, what you've done. So it's not just you as a person and, you know, I was just taken and that's that. It's much more to it than that. And it's not just military people that are taking, that have been in the military. You can be a civilian because you have probably been taken in past lives and maybe your relatives have been taken. I don't know if my relatives have been taken or not. There's no history of them having weird experiences or anything. So I think it's mostly me, but I was taken because of my genetics and I've had the ET abductions. So that's already a connection to why I was put into these programs on Mars.
Yeah, and so for some people, I just kind of liken it to this. Let's say, and I'm glad you brought up the historical genetics, because, you know, some of what happened, I know to me, I didn't understand, but it was related to historical genetics. And they, you know, before, you know, they have portals you can, again, you can attain this way, but they also have natural portals that you need something else. I know for a fact, because I was utilized in it, that until they learned how to open those portals through a technology, they actually looked for people with a genetics from the species that were guardians of portals. And I was utilized that. You literally had people that they figured out could literally do what was necessary because of their genetics would be recognized to open portals until they gained the technology to no longer need a person. So it's a very interesting thing, the journey that occurred during all of this time of where even the hierarchy in the backstage was, because the aliens they were working with certainly didn't tell them everything. They gave them a start, and then humanity and these people had to figure out their own how to start doing things. But I liken this to what we're saying, because let's say that your main purpose that they were bringing you back there for was more for your genetics. It wasn't necessarily for your psychic ability that you may or may not have that they could, you know, manipulate. It may not have been that they were going to use you as a soldier, but there was a whole infrastructure back there. So if they needed you for genetics, well, who's going to be the one working at the, because they also put together little cities, who's going to be the one working at the shops? Who's going to be the one working here? Who's going to be the one working in the cafeteria? Who's going to be the one getting rid of the trash? I mean, so it's an entire infrastructure, and you're right, they would put and use people. But if they wanted your genetics, and that's what they really wanted, they would bring you right back there, and then again put you in other jobs to you know, to be a part of it as well. So I just feel that is so important to say, because the way things seem to be going, Chris, and you can probably talk about this with the energies and with things that are going on now, that these memory blocks more and more are going to start to break down. And one of the things that I think I first thought, I don't know about you, Chris, you can talk about this, is that for a while, because of the way that the dress, like you think you're having a past life dream, but your dress is so similar to now. It's a little bit more modern. How can I be in past life? Or technology, maybe even a little bit more advanced. So, I must be looking at another timeline. I mean, you're going to try to rationalize. You feel it's more than a dream, but you're going to try to rationalize what it is, because this whole concept of being taken, what we refer to as off the stage to behind the stage, to do all of this stuff, is a little bit hard. But we feel very strongly that more and more people, because so many people were needed, that more and more people are going to start to have breakthrough memories.
Yes, and I've been going through this exact same thing with the new energies coming through, or like how the guides like to say it, it's a lot of the old coming back that's being unblocked, and the good stuff from a long time ago with a lot of new that's coming in now. And what that results in, if there's anything being held back that is supposed to be now, that is not supposed to be scripted, let's say, is coming back. Like what you were saying, also future lives. What these beings, or these people, these groups like to do is script ahead too. They like to say, okay, we're going to place this person here and have this person do this. This is going to happen to their life here. But if you start to become more of a sovereign being and step outside of that, then not only do they get really pissed, like some of these alien groups and military groups have with us, there's not anything they can do about when you get in the vibration outside of that scripting, and it screws up their whole plan for what they were going to do many or a couple lifetimes ahead from now. I always tell people, people always ask me, like, what about these other future lives I'm seeing? It's like, disregard that. You're living right now. Don't live their script. Step outside of it and live your own life. And then people have noticed some of these memories starting to come back. But like, I like what you said about they actually take all of your other lifetimes, all of these other experiences, and kind of mean average them as to what you're good at here. Because that's exactly what I've discovered with working with clients and finding other people that have been in the MyLabs, SSP programs, scientific fields, military fields. There's also another one that they train people for that is is lesser known, the fake miracle crowd too. There's like a religious section where there's like where they'll have people trained to perform fake miracles like stigmatas and also the aliens create these like bleeding statues and all these other areas. This is an area that's kind of forgotten amongst the other scientific stuff and all these other fields where people are placed. But this is another area where, like my guide Simeon, he becomes incensed with this area in particular all the time. It's this fake miracle area. But so I'm actually very happy you brought that whole process
and
up.
it's because we say the words SSP, Secret Space Program, but actually the people involved who have created the Secret Space Program,
Yes.
the ones that, and I know there's multiple corporations or multiple groups, but there is also that underlying, as well as being out there, how do we control the people down there? And so it's bigger than just Secret Space Program. And so again, that's something else we just wanted to make sure that people understand. People are having certain memories. Of course, they're relating it to the Secret Space Program, but the concept of everything that's going on back there is related, and part of it is how do we develop things and how do we create things to also keep people in check here from finding out not only have we done this, but also there's a bigger picture that we talk about a little bit of domination and control issues and things that are going on related to it all. And it's all of the above. It's not just the one area that people are beginning to remember. And I just keep saying it in context because people will start somewhere, but it's going to be very hard if memories keep coming back for people to selectively wash out some of that negativity, some of that domination and control that was keeping people in line over there, but also how it bled back into the stage area that we call where we live now. So I just want to give that broad perspective, and it's okay.
Yeah, and coming back to the stage area here, the staging on Earth, let's just say that in 2014, somebody did come out, right? I think we all know this person's name by now, and I'm not going to mention the name. They came out in 2014, writing blogs and stuff, sort of infiltrating the community, saying, I'm an SSP asset. What memories do you have? And saying, you're welcome to share them and whatever. In 2015, they went on the conference circuit. They went on digital show. They were very successful for like 4 or 5 years. They had a great money ride, collecting money, gaining fame and becoming famous for describing their SSP experiences, alien meetings, abductions, whatnot, right? And then they sort of fell out of favor with everybody because they started calling people out as being fake, liars, whatever. Your experiences aren't real. I'm the only one that can validate that you were in the SSP or not by talking to my SSP contacts out there in space in this alliance, SSP alliance. So, and this person started doxing people recently because they were being called out. This person was being called out as making stuff up now. That person themselves who said others were, making stuff up and are fakes, turned out to be this person did make up a lot of extra stuff, layers on top, because they stopped having SSP experiences, but to continue being on shows and conferences, they had to make stuff up scripted and to look genuine, although they weren't and people could see it. And that person was called out for it, and they doxed somebody else who is in the mental health profession. They put out their work phone number, address where they worked, home address, and said that they're working with cancer patients. So, and another person did the same thing who worked with that person, the one that called many people fake and SSP assets LARPers. I don't want to say names because
and you know what? We agree with you to don't say names, because what we understand, just like Chris was saying, again, there's a bigger picture going on, and people think there are people, again, you're going out there, they're doing things out there, but they're also trying to control the narrative and control people here. A lot of people who were, and we said this before, Elaine, in the first show, a lot of people who were highly susceptible to being able to be programmed were programmed to come back onto the stage and to distract, to do whatever, to try and bring attention. And if they're successful in bringing a lot of attention to themselves, they're in a position where they can now start reading a narrative that the people behind them, that program, want them to read. Mm-hmm. The bad news about it is that, sometimes they know it's like an experience. I would like to know what it is like this lifetime to deceive people. Well, you may be a willing participant, and that's what you want to learn. Sometimes people do not know. Because again, these memories, and we know false memories can seem so real, that they're sharing an experience that actually was implanted and not real. This is really why, Elena, that we decided 2 years ago that we thought we needed to spend more time on helping people grow personally, because there was going to be so much information that came out, and not all of it was going to be for a person's highest good. Some was going to be distraction. Some was going to be trying to get you to buy into a narrative. And so this whole scenario and things like it are why we've held off for 2 years, and we wanted people to work on their protection, their discernment skills, their sovereignty. Yeah. But we actually found out one other thing through this.
With this in particular individual, we found out the version of this person that people see is a clone that is actually through a quantum thread is connected to somebody on Mars. We found this out. I followed the quantum thread back, connected to Mars, but then jumped here to be this deceptive agent, or to be this deceptive person. This person also psychically attacks people. I've come to find out. Did this to myself. Came to find out when recalling memories, I was constantly seeing this person's face, or I was working with other people, that they would always see this person in dreams pop up. And apparently he has this almost like shadow light body aspect. I use the term light body very, very, very gradually there, but this what now somebody's trying to screw with me as I'm trying to explain something, but that's why some thoughts are being pulled out of my head here. But what was going on was I kept seeing this person, in an astral body, but this person had the heads of other people. This astral version of this person had the heads of other people around him, using them as shields. So if I would try to go mentally after him, it would go to some of these other people mentally, and then those people, if they were psychic enough, would think I was attacking them. And that's why we had these things as shields. So not that long ago, we started to strip some of these shields away and give the energy shards and psychic energy back to the people that this person had stolen it from. And we found several layers involved with this guy. Well, we managed to strip it down to the base light body. And then I came to find out that that was the reason that source let this person in to begin with, was to be a point of reference. and so that people would come into their own sovereignty and say, no, I did experience these things. No, I'm not crazy. You are not the judge, jury, and executioner for this experience. You know, I know I lived this. That's why I found out he was put there as a point of reference.
Exactly.
Yeah, and one other thing I just want to say just really quickly is that as people are working on themselves, why do they know? Why can they run across somebody or see something on the TV or do whatever and pretty quickly get a sense that this feels good or this doesn't feel good? It's because they're growing inside and their discernment skills are working, but it's also something that this is what we did not know. We learned in the last few years since speaking to you. We did not realize. So when you're dealing with the concepts of domination and control and whatever, they vibrate at a certain frequency. What we're asking people to do with and grow into is a frequency that's actually a little bit higher than that. What's actually happening is that when you get into a frequency that's a little bit higher, a frequency that's a little bit lower, you can tell it may hurt your head. You may start to feel ill. Something doesn't feel right about it. Well, this is what we didn't realize. Those within that lower frequency have no idea you can sense them out because they can't vibrate in that frequency. So some of this has been a great shock to those people that have put this plan into place and are bringing, he's not the only one, who are bringing in people to do this because they had no conceptual thought process that people were raising beyond that, and they could sense them out. It's like they thought they had no stink, and they don't understand how people are able to do it. So I bring that only in because I want people to understand that working on yourself and bringing yourself up in vibration and working on that will help you navigate through all of this.
So basically, like, I know that I have a karmic connection with this person who we were just talking about, that I had a past life with them on Mars 500,000 years ago, where they were a military type personality in the military, in the Mars military. And they basically pulled the switch to, Mars was being invaded, and they pulled the switch to, repel that invasion, and they used nuclear missiles to nuke half the planet. And I was an environmentalist, so I was quite against, like, an environmental scientist or something, and I was against that kind of stuff, using nuclear weapons to repel attacks, off-world attacks. So I said, no, this isn't right. You're going to nuke half the planet. Don't do it. But they pressed the button, and it did. And I escaped in a shuttle pod, saying basically, this is not right. I don't like you. We're going to meet again. We're going to sort this out. So I said, basically, you're going to pay for this in the next lifetime. You're going to keep on paying for this until this is resolved. And I guess it did reverberate into this present lifetime. And he ended up paying, and I ended up paying for it as well. And we unknowingly had an encounter in 2016 and 17 where there was this a bit of a toxic connection of stalker, a victim mentality, and being stalked by that person and badgered online on the internet, being called a fake and a liar. So, and then now this person is no longer on that digital show, and their credibility is being questioned. So there is karmic connection and karmic ties and bonds. If something is not resolved in a past lifetime, it will have to be resolved somewhere else at some point in time, in a time frame. Whether it's far in the future, in the present, or even in the past, things come back to replay themselves in order to sort it out. And all I could say is I want nothing to do with that person who we were just discussing. I hope they get healing. I hope they sort out their life, because they have a family and they need to do their own thing. But making money off their SSP experiences, frankly, was the wrong thing to do. It was just the wrong thing to do, and it backfired on them. Becoming so famous and stuff, it didn't work out because people could see the deception in that. It wasn't genuine. And they were being gatekeepers preventing other SSP assets from coming forward and sharing their stories, who are not on the conference circuits, who are not on TV shows, who are not being interviewed, on radio shows. These are just people doing stuff like this, just talking to each other on the internet in these interviews that are just low-key. It has nothing to do with money. It has nothing to do with fame. It's being genuine and trying to sort this all out for us, get answers.
But I also have memories of this person having like contractual bindings to this person as well. But I found out how to get rid of these through revocations and basically revoking these contracts. And you can ask your higher essence to expel these, not just through revoking them, but I found out when I asked somebody else at higher essence on more of an intuitive level, do you wish to get rid of these contracts? I'll see through their heart, the person's heart space. I always ask that that source put it in the form of paper so I can see like the scrolls and the contracts come out so I can visually see it. And that's what happens. And as we were sitting here, as you were talking about that thing with Mars, which I believe that past person of him is who I was actually referencing. Now, it was actually much further back in time than I thought. He had another self there that was arcing through time here. I was seeing in you all these contracts just kind of evaporating and burning, coming out of your heart space here. I was seeing like scrolls and stuff just kind of just evaporating into nothing. So and
it's great that you brought up how long ago, because honestly, it's even potentially longer ago than that. So this is what I think is hard. And we've been trying to, do our best to help people grasp a concept, is that, you have to think of, even way back, at some point there was a decision of, oh, we refer to this expression as going from dark to light. So an experience, everything of what that means. And so how long ago this thought process to do this, and then the infrastructure being put in place to have a darkness, to have a light, to have these, it is unimaginably old how old this happens. And so some of these issues, I am hypothesizing, but if we know for ourselves this is true, so it makes sense that from what you're saying is probably true for you, that some of your disagreeing of tactics was probably even happening prior to 500,000 years ago. There seemed to, again, be a splitting that occurred. Some like-mindedness for a while, let's have this experience or whatever, but something happened, and then there was a breaking away of thought process within the experience of what should be done, what shouldn't, what is overage, what is not overage, and there was a breaking away. And so some of these dynamics are, and the fact that we, our souls, our big self is like a library, and we're enormously old. We're here in our skin suit having this experience, but some of these dynamics, exactly what you're saying, have been carrying on with individuals, and threads have now been made that need to be severed for a long, 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 long time. And so I think that's one of the things that I know, Chris, that you've tried to help people understand is you don't have to remember everything. You don't. But try to sever some of these, take these contracts, do some of these basic revocations to just get rid of the bazillion of strings that have you attached to different people from things you will never remember, so that you can become a little bit more of your sovereign self. Because the goal is now is that, we've kind of, we keep saying, it is our understanding that we've experienced going down the tube. We've done the bad side. We did that first. That's where Nibiru and all that comes from, because people have memories and are afraid, well, they should, because we already did it. We already did that. Now the goal is we come to the point of getting to do the other side that we have not done before, to come out of it, to know what it's like to work together in unity. We'll have a long, long experience learning how to do that. But right now we're at the crevice point of starting to understand enough about what occurred to us so that we don't do it again. Mm-hmm. And so I really appreciate you bringing up the fact that this is long ago. This tie is long ago.
Yeah, and also you know, like there's nothing wrong with going to conferences. There's nothing wrong with being a speaker at conferences, going on digital shows, TV shows, radio shows. There's nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong for doing it for money as well. For some people, it's a paid job. They're UFO researchers, they're UFO speakers, whatever, past life regression hypnosis therapists that do this on shows as well. Nothing wrong with that, as long as you're genuine and you're not deceiving people and you're not just bilking them for money to pay for your own lifestyle, which that person was doing, unfortunately.
Yes.
So nothing wrong with being out there and being known for being an SSP asset and sharing your story, being paid for conferences, whatnot. Nothing wrong with that. As long as you're genuine and as long as it comes from the heart and you're not stopping other people from coming forward. There's enough room for everybody here to share their stories and follow whatever path you want in life. As long as you're not hindering each other, you're not threatening each other, you're not doxing people publicly on the internet for discussing this or that. People have the right to talk about, I guess people have the right to talk about each other. If there's something wrong, obviously, they're going to talk about it anyway. But doxing them and outing them is not the way to make things better in life. It's just not.
Exactly. We always say don't cause a for and against. You know, we always call these people the linchpins of for and against, because they'll cause or somebody else will be programmed to cause a for and against in society on the internet. And this person's a prime example of one of those linchpins, those agents that have put in place to try to get people riled up over here to go, no, I'm, you know, then go back and forth, you know. But if you just tell your story and tell what happened to you and do it, like you said, from the heart and not really bash back and not use names like we're not doing it, not giving that person any ammunition.
And the big thing we've always tried to say is discern the message and not the messenger. Try to, you know, people have had this historic thing of either believing all or believing nothing, that kind of duality thing. And we say, you know, we know, I mean, you know, everybody can potentially not get it right, but the goal is to, you know, listen to what's being said, discern and pull in what feels right to you. Make an assumption. I just tell people, you really should make an assumption that everyone can be deceived. Everyone can bring in a false memory, or everyone could bring whatever. What you need to do is listen to it all, pull what feels right to you, what seems to ring to you, and just let the rest go. Don't look at anybody as they have to be all right or all wrong, because that is not the way this is going to come in. You know, is anyone who realized after a while that, oh my God, that memory that seemed so real was really a false one? Or because that is the way it's going to occur from our understanding. And so stop putting that pressure on people that they have to be all right or all wrong. And you'll slowly discern who you feel more is giving more like information that feels right to you. And some you may naturally start to not listen to anymore. It's what's going to happen.
And important not to mimic those other people. They're describing their experiences, what happened to them. Don't assume the exact thing happened to you, because you might have had a different experience. Because in 2014, that person we're discussing, he started disclosing about, he was saying that he was the first SSP asset to disclose about the secrets of the SSP, which he was not. There's other people that came before him. But he was saying he's the only one, and there's no room for others to come forward, because there is room for everyone to share their stories, whether it's for free or it's paid or something else in between. Doesn't matter. You're just sharing your experience because you need to get it out there. You need to be able to feel safe and openly disclosing and not being judged or attacked by the original person who thought he was the original SSP asset doing this. So to have the ability to come forward safely and not be judged and not have this preconception that there's gatekeepers who are going to stop you, because that's just political red tape. Personally, I think it's no one person can tell you what to do or not to do. You are a sovereign, free living being with free will to make your own choices, and karmically everything balances out. good or bad, negative, positive. It balances out in the end. You have to come to that stage where you feel good about yourself and you have your own success because you worked hard for it. People sabotage themselves. It's about who you, for me, it's the message that's being delivered, the story, but it's also the person for me. What's behind the person? What are the programs running in the person? Because that person we're discussing, the message is important. They disclose some very interesting stuff, but the person behind it, don't be rotten tomatoes, basically. Just,
Yeah.
I'm sorry to say, this person was rotten tomatoes to me. I was stalked.
And it's okay. That's what we're trying to say. It's okay. You should only, go with. But you also were able to recognize there were pieces of information coming through that were correct. So some people, one of the biggest things right now is, people trying to break out of the mold of all or nothing. I either believe everything or I believe nothing, when the truth of the matter is, pick through it. What we have found ourselves is that, we actually don't. We don't listen to everything. We don't scour the internet. We don't do every now and then, because we're going to do a show that we call putting our finger to the wind. We may sit and watch a bunch of things and say, okay, this is, I think, where we are. But otherwise, we don't. We actually don't. But now they're making me try to lose my train of thought.
Mm-hmm.
But what I really want to say is that along the way, as you're working on yourself, you get better at doing that. When the frequency difference, so let's say there's a person like that and they're vibrating at a certain frequency and they're pretty much staying there. And I hate using up or down, but there's no other way to demonstrate this. If you're working on yourself, you're going to slowly keep moving, which means there becomes more and more of a frequency difference. So what we discovered is that although we would say listen to a lot of people, and there comes a point in time where you really cannot stand listening to them because the frequency between you two are too far apart now. They may even still be bringing forth partial information that's correct, but you can't even want to look at them or be, listen or whatever, because that, and there's nothing, I guess I'm saying it because I'm going to tell people there's nothing wrong with that. What you're feeling is a frequency difference happening. And so go in grace, let them go, move on to something else that feels right for you, that feels more genuine, learn from that. You may stay with them a long time, or you may get what you need and move on. I mean, that's all okay, because it's your experience of learning and growing.
Yeah.
And don't feel bad about it, because that's the natural process of how it occurs. I am pretty darn confident that that's where you are with this particular person.
Yeah, for me, it's like I respected this person for a long time before they went after me, and I wish them all the best, but I hope they turn a page and wise up, because I would not want to be emulating somebody that I highly respected but are acting the way they were acting. I would not want to emulate the worst out of the best, because some really good things did come from that person, some really great info in the beginning, but I would not want to emulate their latest behavior and say that's okay to do, because it's not. It's not okay to attack other people, expose them, make them vulnerable, be in fear, scare them. That's not right. And that's just karma coming back to realign itself, because what that person did to the other person comes back to them tenfold, and blah, blah, blah. And what you put out is what you reap back, basically. I would not want to be emulating that kind of stuff. So for me, I'm just doing my own thing, doing my own research, exploring my own memories, living the best life that I'm capable of doing, and working on myself to better myself. And I don't want to be part of a business like, you did this, you did that, who did this, who did that. I don't want to be in that. Right now in the SSP community, it's all about this person did that, and the bad attention is going to this person. They're bad. That person is not bad. They're just following their own programming, whatnot. So I'm trying to stay out of that, not comment on it, not participate in that energetic field. I am me. That person is them. I've stepped away from them, they are no longer centering their attention on me, and they won't, because it's not for my highest good or theirs. They have to sort out whatever they're doing and look at themselves and say, is this for my highest good, or why am I even doing this? Why am I behaving this way? Because it is about your soul karma. It is about working out whatever you're here to work out.
Yeah, exactly. These people are living the expression that their higher essence chose for them when they came in. Now, are there beings out there that were taken from other expressions and brought here for the farming? Yes, but still, there's a purpose for those souls to be here as well, to bring about a different vibration as well. I've also noticed another thing that's happened when we have looked at some of these other insiders. We're not talking about the same person now, but some other insiders that are out there, I've noticed can also start to trigger memories if you were in some of the spots they were as well. Like if you were like one of the other team members or something like that. I've noticed that with myself, where I was already starting to really remember stuff, but then when we glanced at some of these other things, I noticed it took it off in a different direction, started to validate stuff that I was already looking at. So I've noticed the good people and the good energies tend to validate and corroborate what's already been going on with myself and any of the other good people that were genuinely in this. Okay, now also we can go into a slightly different thread. Now you sent us a couple of images of a couple symbols, and we all took a look at this. My mother took a look at it, Joanna took a look at it, I took a look at it, and the energy of those just sank through the floor. When I was looking at these, it started to scramble me immediately. It had quantum programming in it, and I did revoke it immediately as soon as I saw it.
It made us sick. It literally. And the funny thing is, I'm going to tell you, right before we brought you on, and Chris was sending you the email with the link, so he brought up the email, and those images were on the bottom of the email, so they flashed up first. I wasn't even looking at it, and he was like, "Oh my God!" And he, pulled it up to not see them. I'm going to tell you, the weird thing about it is that I did not see him. I was standing all the way, but the energy of those symbols hits you, whether you really look at them or not. The energy coming through the computer with those symbols, I could not believe it.
Again, I felt like whoever wrote these, and I've seen this pop up in people's sessions where they went through a MyLab and had symbols like that flash up along with shorthand. I had a client that was sitting in a chair that had been quantumly time traveled back to the Nazi period, and there was a German man or doctor, I use the term lightly, that was using those symbols mixed with shorthand to upload programming to this person's brain. And I recognized those immediately, and I can read quantum light language in certain interpretations. I can read it, and I could feel like it was almost trying to get the person, get whoever looked at it to be loyal to either a person or organization. I felt like drawn to how can I put it? It's starting to leave my head now, but somebody didn't want me to actually utter that. Like being loyal to whatever program was using things.
Right. If you're breaking away from your programming, become a little bit more sovereign. How do we draw you back in to reinsert the programming so you're loyal to whatever it was that was working with you? And man, it is not pleasant. We were struggling here with whether or not we were going to show these. And I think you decided you would show these symbols. However,
I just put the word revoke over the top.
Yeah, we're telling it can be a good exercise to see what evokes in you when you look at these symbols. What do you feel? Do you feel good about them? Do you feel hold off? Does your head start to hurt? Do you start to feel nauseous? What is going on with you? But we only want to show them if you agree to revoke what you're basically about to see, because this is something trying to pull people back in.
Yeah, and I know before we show these things, I know what they are and what their origin is. Basically, I'm writing a book about my SSP experiences.
Okay.
I've seen Project Blue Book, the new show on History Channel, and also Roswell, New Mexico, the new show on the CW channel. And the first symbol, the the triangle, right?
Mhm.
And the 3 lines and the 3 circles, that's from Project Roswell. Sorry, from Project Blue Book. And it connects also to the Roswell crash itself. So the United States Air Force was using that. It's a symbol for mind control.
Yeah.
And they were using it to activate pilots who had had UFO experiences when they were flying during the World War II they encountered the Foo Fighters, right? So they were using, it's an alien symbol for making contact experiences, but it's also a symbol for brain wipes. So the United States Air Force was using that symbol actually in a secret program to try to facilitate extraterrestrial contact experiences with other beings through the human pilots by showing them that symbol and activating them. And it's for mind control, brainwashing, and for memory recalls and brain wipes. So that signal can be used multifold. It's a two-way streak to make contact experiences between humans and extraterrestrials, and also to do brainwashing, mind control, and totally erasing people's memories. And the Roswell one, the symbol, like the upside down triangle with the 3 circles, that's also for making contacts with extraterrestrial beings. It can be used for positivity or negativity. They have frequency waves, these symbols.
Mm-hmm.
The SSP were using both of them from their alien language databases on the Mars basis to just put that symbology into their memory engram stations to erase people's memories or put in false memories or alter your behavior, so to put in programming for you during your missions or whatnot. So you wouldn't be acting like your normal self, you would be programmed for something. So that's what my understanding and knowledge is of those 2 symbols. And my reaction was when I saw them in Project Blue Book show in Roswell, New Mexico, automatically put them in my book, describe what this is and why it's being all disclosed through shows right now.
Yes.
It's not a coincidence that these symbols suddenly pop up together, one show after another in episodes, multiple episodes. So like, okay, it's time to write this book. Put it in there. Don't be afraid. Just put it in there. And I thought I'd ask you guys what those symbols, if you had seen them, because you have SSP memories. That's what the show is about.
Yeah, I've seen those before, and not only my own MyLab training from memories I have, but yeah, I saw them as being loyal to the programming, and like you just said, you pointed that same thing out. Yeah, I did recognize them, but also at the same time, I did notice on one of those my backstage memories were starting to falter. That's why I was starting to fidget a little bit, because I had looked at that first symbol, and all of a sudden I'm starting to rip my fingernails off a little bit while I'm looking at it. So I was starting to do this because I read things on a quantum light level to analyze what was embedded in it. And I started to do that. Then it started to trigger my brain, and that's why I was kind of shaky a little bit after looking at it. So yeah, I would definitely talk about that in a book. Yeah.
But people need to know, and again, people are going to have different responses based upon their susceptibility to be programmed. So for me, and I thought maybe it would be interesting as well for each one of us to share a little memory of something. It doesn't have to be extravagant or whatever, just a little memory, because we are talking about it, and we've not shared a lot of different memories. But the one thing that it does to me is to say I was a person who was not easily programmed, and so the bad news, and I always tell Chris, a lot of what I remember and everything back there would not really be considered fun or pleasant. Not that there weren't fun or pleasant times, but I know that my genetic lineage, what was wanted for was mathematics skills, maybe computer science skills, and genetics. But within that genetics, one of the strings running through is there is a genetic component where you are less susceptible. You're less susceptible to all of this stuff. So that was running in my family lineage as well. So what better place to put a person who is less susceptible, but put them in the program to find out how to make them susceptible. And so, I unfortunately have a memory of being very small, under 5. And again, they do what they can do until they learn to develop it better, right? So before implanting, and implanting that could make you really more susceptible or whatever, they actually were first experimenting with things that they somehow attached to your nervous system. And so I literally would see where I had things coming out of my lower back, as a mechanism, and literally would see, someone come up when I didn't want to do something and they turn the dial, so this is not a pretty story when you really tease out, they talk about they were here and then they learned how, and they leave out everything in between, how it got there, and a little bit of bad, there really was the mindset of you were just no more than a lab rat versus, a human no more than a lab rat. And so some of that really wasn't pretty at all. So for me, seeing that symbol, I actually get probably a pretty significant violent response, and it actually evokes in me being put into situations where it was so much, let's say, torture, either trying to break your psyche or doing something that, but for other people, they're going to look at the symbol and they're going to be like, nothing. It's going to vary depending on where you are in all of this. But if you have a propensity not to be easily manipulated, it's going to bother you. If you really look at them a while and think about it, these symbols are going to bother you. But the one thing that I'll bring up memory from myself really quick, and then I hope you two will do one as well, was something that it's quite interesting to me because I haven't figured it all out. This is now being an older child. And I remember them doing certain experimentations. The only way I can describe it is think of being in a very large hangar of something, and the control window of the humans or whomever were a part of the experimentation, think of it being high up on the wall, like a really large glass area that they were sitting in, looking into this hangar type thing. One of these particular times that I found interesting, because I didn't quite understand what was going on, Chris had to help me figure it out, was inside the hangar was a pyramid. It was black, or I thought it was black, very large, more of the Nubian style. Okay, well, what was starting to happen to me is I was starting to, now I was from outside looking at the pyramid from the control panel area to being inside the pyramid. What I found interesting about being inside the pyramid and sitting on a table or something, sitting up on a table, is that when I was looking out of the pyramid, I didn't know the material of the pyramid, but I could see through it, and all of it was honeycomb shaped. So now I'm looking outside of, I don't know what the black material was, but it was see-through, and the whole thing was like honeycombs that made the material of this big black Nubian pyramid. So I don't know how they had to utilize these different geometric shapes to enhance whatever that they were doing. But then what was happening is that apparently children would be taken into this area. And this was not a human working with me. This was another entity working. And what they were doing is they were in that particular experiment or process. They were working with children and their psychic abilities. But unfortunately, what were they doing? They were unfortunately taking children, and they were inducing fears, inducing thought processes that you would now be watching a scenario. You've telepathically gone somewhere, and they put you in a place where you're now fearful of that other person, place, whatever. And that person may turn around on you and you feel the need to defend yourself. And they were literally teaching children at that point how to psychically attack people from a distance, and how to psychically, and I'm sure from that they were teaching you as you got older how to psychically, implant. I hate to call it assassins, but I think a lot of people were taught psychically how to do things like that. It was a very actually upsetting experience because I really felt like this, where I was, someone saw me and they went to attack me, and I just screamed out no, and actually in that thing had them kill themselves with a weapon instead of coming after me. But I literally wasn't even in the same room. I was telepathically. So that's the one experience. I find it interesting about the triangle being in that shape. I find it interesting about the honeycomb, how it was used. But I know that children with telepathic skills were being taught assassination skills from that, unfortunately. So that's the one experience. And I actually bring it up because I'm telling you, people are going to start to remember things that they were a part of, and they're not going to be happy with themselves. They're not going to be happy with what they did. But it was very complicated. You really were being used. You really couldn't necessarily do things on your own as you would normally do them. And but the memories are going to come back. So I don't know if either one of you now want to join in.
Hey, go ahead, Ileana.
Yeah, so my memory is being on the cybernetic labs and building out cyborgs, being like a quality control technician, using human body parts to splice it with cyborg technology and create a new being, and then put somebody else's soul in that being, take the soul out physically from the body and put it into the cyborg, and seeing the cyborg reacclimate. That soul has their memories and everything. They're just in the cyborg body and just acclimating and learning to walk and talk into this souped up cyborg body that's part human parts and part cyborg. And I would always ask myself, well, why not just take their original body and augment it with cyborg tech? No, they have to experiment and actually use human body parts from somebody else to splice it with the cyborg tech and put the soul of somebody else into that cyborg, because it actually creates a new being. It's splicing and dicing. And then they put that cyborg into a smart suit that's filled with nanotech, and basically it cloaks you. It could cloak you, make you invisible. It can enhance your healing abilities. It can substitute your food, or if you don't have access to food, it gives you nutrients. It also prevents you from going to the bathroom while you're wearing the smart suit. So it prevents you from creating bio-waste. As long as you're wearing this thing, it also reflects laser fire and bullets. And it's programmed specifically to your genetics, so nobody else could wear your smart suit. That was how the smart suits were designed for the cyborgs. So it wasn't enough that you're already cybernetically augmented and enhanced with cybernetic tech. You're also put into the smart suit that's filled with nanites. That becomes part of you. You can take it off and put it back on. It's programmed specifically to you for security reasons. And also ordering a bunch of genetic tests and looking into genetics and DNA and sequencing stuff to make ET human hybrids in those cybernetic labs. So I have a lot of medical knowledge that I'm not physically trained for here on Earth at this time, but I was then, and I'm sort of utilizing that now to help myself with my health. I'm not going to get into the details of what I'm doing or why, but that access to that knowledge from that time on Mars, on the basis in those cybernetic labs, can be applied here now to what I'm doing with myself, with my health, for improvements. Because you could take that knowledge, medical knowledge, and apply it here into what's currently available to you medically to help yourself. That one, and also having memories of getting physical battle-ready assassin training in Antarctica, working with swords and battle axes, these huge big swords in underground tunnel systems. So being trained in a harsh environment as a physical assassin, and also psychically, to be able to kill people with psychically energy. So that goes back to Joanna's memory as well, because I've had assassin training both in Antarctica and off-planet, another solar system.
Yes, I have a scattering of different memories. One of them was also assassin training. But what they would do in that respect is they would these aliens would pull my light body out of the physical body, and they would let the physical body go conduct the assassinations and some of the military stuff. Now, do I have memories of military training on different planets and in different solar systems and going and try to save populations and such? Yes. And I'm trying to apply some of that training to here to keep myself in shape, keep my mental capacities in shape for doing my sessions, everything. So there are benefits to doing this. And you were talking about putting the soul in a different body. Well, I have multiple memories of doing body switching, you know, going into different bodies. They had the ability to grow a body of either gender and apply some of your very own genetics slightly to it, and also put cybernetic components in, like what you were talking about, for doing specific missions. Like, say, if an enemy knew what you looked like, you know, and they couldn't just send you in there, they would send you in there in a different body. And you know, I would always do like a gender switch. I would always have like a female body to use in a particular mission, where there was one where I had to infiltrate a camp full of slave traders that were stealing women in abductions, and they had to be stopped somehow. But it couldn't be a man that barreled in there with a gun. It had to be a female to try to be a Trojan horse. So that's there are benevolent military groups out there that stole this technology from the bad guys and started to use it against them after a while. They're splinter cell groups. They're not cohesive, but I remember being part of at least 2 of those. And I do have memories of training with large light swords. They kind of almost like a lightsaber, but they were flat. And they had they were an energy type of weapon. I remember training with those and regular munitions like guns and ammo and regular grenades and things of that nature. So I was in both, and I also had these memories are rather splintered. There's also some memories of me doing VR training. So if I was having a fear that the commander wanted me to fight, he would set up the VR trainer to be able to find what I was afraid of and conquer it within a VR setting. But if you wipe the person's memory, and if it's a point of heightened emotion, they're just going to remember they're going to remember that piece of VR training and think that was part of the actual real physical stuff. I've run into that myself. And like I had a nightmare of being grabbed by a large fish underwater. And I found out that was actually part of one of the VR training memories. The commander had set it up to where I wouldn't resist the fear. Like, I would have to live it out and experience it. And I was experiencing that on the nightmare sequence. So that could be confusing to anybody trying to resurrect memories. Some of these are these VR trainings that some of these military groups put them under for military training. They want people to get past their fears so they're more desensitized to it. And that was the purpose that this particular commander did that. I could go on, but these are some of the basic things I was part of myself.
Yeah, and often what ends up happening, what you experienced in the SSP, your knowledge, like medical, genetic, whatever, it sort of correlates to your current life and what you can do. Sometimes from your memories, you have access to medical knowledge that you're not trained for. You're not a doctor. You're not trained for it. You shouldn't have it, but you do, and you apply it somehow. Medical, legal, whatever. It's called book smart knowledge from elsewhere that you're not trained for, but yet you are, because you experienced it already somehow, somewhere. You've done it before, so you have access to it from your cellular memory, through just your soul energy, from your mind. You can access it through various different ways, through meditation, hypnosis, regression. You can get it out of you in so many different ways, because there are different ways to do it, to get access to that information and the memories you want. Nothing is ever truly erased or hidden. It eventually comes back anyway. You can't get rid of secrets. They come back. Whatever it was, whoever it was, whatever it was, what you did or somebody else did, is always in your memory. You can never get rid of it. You can never truly erase a soul or break it. A soul is eternal. So you have access to that stuff. I don't believe that a soul can be broken and shattered and erased from existence, because it can't. A soul is eternal. It can be hurt, it can be traumatized, tortured, but it can never be truly destroyed.
Exactly. Yeah, I believe the same. That my mother always uses the phrase "the soul remembers," and what the physical body forgets and what the brain forgets, the soul has it backed up completely. Remembers every single thing that has ever happened to it since the beginning of time. And these SSP memories are a drop in the bucket compared to what the soul has experienced. So if the higher essence wants these things back in order to either A, learn from, or B, apply here in some fashion, it's going to take place no matter if these governmental bodies want it or not. They can't control the soul itself. Even if they could transfer it from body to body, that's the higher essence wanting to experience that to come to a good end or an end game that is more inducive to the new energies and a positive outcome.
And again, because we're not going to experience what we did before. We've already done it. We've already gone down the tubes. We're going to experience what it's like to realize, come out of it, and create a new path that we've actually not done before. So people are going to be moving into a line, and that's another thing where we talk about co-creation, about really pay attention to what you're co-creating, because we're in the energies now where we are co-creating new. We're meant to come out of this. We're meant to remember. We're meant to have perspective, and we're meant to move in a different direction. And which is why, as you're referring to, all of the inner work and the self-reflection and having perspective and not judging, but trying to work on yourself to create a new path is really what's key to all of this.
It's a bigger, broader picture than just the secret space program. Yeah, a lot of people are focusing on the Space Force, Donald Trump, the insiders, the SSP whistleblowers, insiders, but it's so more broader. The extraterrestrial abductions, the contact experiences with extraterrestrials, SSP, it's a circle of life, and it's a broad picture, and there's puzzle pieces that connect everything together and separate, and going down the tubes of this happened, let's make sure we don't repeat the same past mistakes and learn from it and make new timelines, make new realities for ourselves, and be the best that we can be as beings.
Yes, I completely agree. Do you have any other further questions for me?
No, I think this. Okay. I hope this has really helped people understand. Our intention was to come in and try to broaden this discussion a little bit than what people are talking about. If you've been working on yourself, if you haven't, please work on yourself. You can always go back on the lifting website, go to the episode, start at episode number 1, start doing some inner work first and learn more about the world around you. This is real, everybody. This really is happening. We can't stress that enough, but you shouldn't be taking any sort of doom and gloom attitude, because the goal is we're remembering to come out of it and to create a better way, not remembering to just knowingly know we're in a domination and control scenario. So there's a reason why we're remembering all of this now. And so take that to heart, start co-creating the life that you want. Dream it in. That's what we say. Dream it in. If you want to get along with everybody, dream in seeing everybody get along. If you want understanding amongst different groups, see the understanding. Pretend in your head. See it happening. That's how you start to co-create the different world that we all want to be in. So any last words, Ileana, before we close this off?
Like you were saying before, if you want to revoke something, there are revocation contracts, scrolls, whatever. There are certain words, frequencies that you can use to say, I don't want to be associated with this person anymore. I put it in that I want to revoke this behavior, this action, whatever. Use your powerful words, write it down yourself, from your soul. Sincerely, what you want to not happen again, or not be associated with somebody. You could write it in words, how you feel it should be, and that's your revocation contract, removal of these energetic cords or whatever you're experiencing, bonded with somebody that you don't want to be bonded to, or a situation. It could be a person, a place, or a thing, or a situation. It could be anything. It's all energetically linked that you can remove it. So, and there's different ways of doing that. There's energy healing, there's physical healing, there's revocation contracts, there's meditation. There's so many different ways, like hypnosis, that you can work through things in life and release physical, emotional trauma or energy trauma, whatever it is you want to work on, you can. Your soul is infinite. It's not limited to just one thing or one person or one action or situation. You have the power as a sovereign free will being to change whatever you want to change and to grow and expand. And your ascension process, the event, the ascension, it's within you. It's you within yourself, working on the inner stuff to the outer stuff, from the ether to the physical, or from the physical to the ether. It goes both ways. That's the event. You are your own event. You don't have to wait for an external event to happen in physical reality. You are the event that drives the change, whatever you want that to be within yourself or with somebody else. Because what you do, it connects to everybody else on this world as well. So actions and consequences have repercussions. What you do does affect somebody else, not just you. So be mindful of what you do and how you do it and what you're creating in life.
Mm-hmm. I couldn't have said that better myself. Exactly. So yeah, this has been a fantastic show with you, Ileana. Thank you for being with us today. Joanna, did you want to do affirmation and blessing for the end?
Oh, sure. So to everybody out there, be kind to yourself. Understand that you have done it all. You have been good. You have been bad. You have been a victim. You have been a perpetrator. You have been benevolent, and you have been malevolent. And why? Because it is your right to understand it all. And you are very loved. So with that, everyone, have a great evening. Good night.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to an episode of The Lifting. If you've enjoyed this episode, please remember to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Don't forget to visit our website at thelifting2017.wixsite.com/thelifting. For psychic services, please go to the Services tab of the website. If you have any questions, please send them to thelifting@gmail.com. All questions will be reviewed by The Lifting, and selected questions may be answered on an upcoming show. And finally, always remember, deny the known, manifest differently. This is your announcer, Paul Lawrence. Thank you for listening.